I work out of a small home studio and I'm going to show you how I reclaim and recycle my clay using some buckets and plaster bat. Clay can be recycled right up until it's been fired in a kiln, so you can keep creating and recreating until you're happy with what you have, and there's very little waste, which is something I really love about pottery. So I'll show you how I do it. Let's get started. This is my bucket of throwing water. I keep it beside the wheel. Once it's near the top, I let it settle. So it might be hard to see on the camera, but the top 5 centimeters or so is just water, and the rest of the clay is settled below that. First step is for me to take the excess water off, and I'll keep that to the side for throwing water. I took quite a bit off. The water in this bucket is really cloudy, but it's mostly water. I'll keep that to the side and let it settle a little bit more, and then I can just take from it for the wheel. What you've got left here is, there's not much liquid until you hit the clay, so that's good. And what I do then is add in any leather hard clay or bone dry clay that I have. I know a lot of people let their excess go bone dry before reclaiming. I don't, and I haven't had any issues yet, so I'm gonna keep doing it that way. So this is my bucket of clay to be recycled. So you've got some pieces here which are kind of fresh, like slabs, excess that wasn't used, failed pieces that cracked. We've got some drier bits in the bottom and trimmings and such. I put as much as I can fit in here. That's it all added. You can see it's starting to peak above the water here. I just push it under. The goal is to let the clay absorb the excess moisture. So I'll leave it in there for at least another day. Cover it up. Hey, so it has been, I think 3 days. I was going to leave it a minimum of 1 day, but time got away from me, which is not a bad thing. Whenever I poured off the water from the reclaim, I did it into this bucket. And the sediment has really settled. Yeah, that's mostly clear water, so I'll just keep that on hand when I need more water for throwing. It's a system that works really well for me. Ooh, I can't lift this up. It would be too risky, but this is settling perfectly. We've probably got about 2 to 3 centimeters or an inch of just clear water on top. So I'm going to sponge that off before I do anything else. I have a tiny sponge for no reason at all. Use a bigger one if you have a bigger one. Ooh. This is still a little bit wetter than I would normally like it, but I've reclaimed wetter than this. The top bit is where the moisture is, but as I go down, I'm just hitting clay, which is great. This is my plaster bat, which is where I do my reclaim, my recycling on. It's also where I wedge my clay. It's probably the third most important piece of kit that I have, beside the wheel and the kiln. It's fantastic, it's a really good size. This is about 60 centimeters long, 40 wide, and 7 deep, which is great. The bigger your plaster bat is, the more moisture it can absorb before it becomes, what's the word? I had a much smaller one, which was more like there's crap on it. This is my original plaster bat, which is just too small. It was fine, but it became saturated. Saturated is the word. Became saturated too quick for it to be useful. But I still keep it to help dry things out, and it would be my backup if anything happened to this. This is essential equipment for me now. So because my reclaim is a little wet, I'm going to lift out the more solid parts of the clay from the bucket and kind of build up a little bit around the sides and then pour in the rest of the reclaim to the middle. I've done this before when it's wet, it works fine, don't need to overthink it. Oh. It is messy. Trying to keep a hand free to turn off the camera is making this a little more awkward than it needs to be. Yeah, so that's just a quick dam built up to keep the liquid in. I've got most of it on. Very little bit left, if you can see. So this is really wet reclaim. Ideally it's a little bit drier. If you have a lot more bone dry clay that you're incorporating, it will obviously take up more of the moisture. But this is not a bad example to show that you don't need to wait for it to be perfect to reclaim if you're running out of space. Also, I'm firing my kiln tonight. I'm doing a glaze firing, which will help dry this off even more. The kiln is quite close. It's 2 meters away, 1.5 meters. So that'll help. And this will be surprisingly dry tomorrow because I have a really big plaster bat that goes on. That really is the key. So we'll check in tomorrow, maybe the next day, depending on how unpleasant it is in here with the kiln going. Hey, just a quick update. This is the next morning, so it's not been a full 24 hours, and you can see how much lower the reclaim has got already. It'll still be really wet, but it's much better than it was. And it's pretty warm in here because the kiln is at 802 degrees. So this is going really well. Hopefully you can hear me over the sound of the rain. So I ended up leaving this reclaim for 2 days. I was going to come out last night and flip it over, but it was really cold and rainy. I didn't want to make the journey down to the studio. So here we are. It's going really well. It still has a lot of drying to do, but it's like much more solid than it was. So at this stage, if I can, I will just turn it. As much as possible. Ooh. That's great. I'm going to leave it a few hours longer flipped. But if I was being impatient, I probably could start wedging it into little balls. It's very soft though, but I like some soft clay. Yeah, we'll give it a bit more time. It has been a couple of days, I think, 2 days since I flipped the clay. I ideally would have come out yesterday. Time got away from me. Luckily, because of the time of year, it hasn't dried out too much. Now I'm just going to lift this, fold it in and give it a quick wedge and it'll be good to use. I do spiral wedging, just personal preference, it's what I learned first. I actually wedge things up just very quickly to incorporate things and then put them in my container to use. Because I always wedge things up before throwing, I don't worry about wedging it perfectly at this stage. Let's see how I did. That's pretty good. Considering that's how it starts. I am out of breath. That is the clay wedged, and that's just good to go. This will now live in my big plastic box with a lid. I give the box a little spray with water every now and again to make sure it doesn't dry out. And yeah, it's perfect. I will take from this as needed to throw. I always wedge right before throwing. And, oh, I'm out of breath. Yeah, for clay reclaim, I think keep it simple. I think people complicate it. This is simple for me. I guess it's whatever's simple for you. You just need to make a big plaster bat. Yeah, it's really, a lot of pottery is drying things out or adding moisture to things. I think the trick is just incorporating it really well whenever you're wedging. It should be the same consistency all the way through. One other thing that I think is important to mention is the water. Whenever I started out with pottery, I'd have too much water from throwing, so I would pour out the top once it had settled down the drain. But I found that reclaim wasn't going as well whenever I did that. I think there are important parts of your clay which stay, I guess, lighter particles that are in the water at the top. So I don't pour off any water anymore. Everything, whenever I siphon it off my reclaim, that gets thrown with. It all stays in the system, in the cycle. And it just works really well for me. Yeah, hopefully this helps. I remember being a little intimidated by reclaim whenever I started pottery. I didn't know how to do it at home. But it doesn't, for me, take up that much space. A couple of buckets, one slab, and you're good to go. Happy reclaim. And thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.